The State of Yu-Gi-Oh! As a Casual Anime Fan by TGS Anime. Before we begin, I want to telegraph, be transparent, put it out there, etc. As we have talked about many times, look, someone like me will want to play games and do things at a high level, a high competitive level, but as well, there's nothing wrong with being casual, whether it's Pokemon, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh!, whether it's, an FPS game, whatever, right? It is fine to be casual. It is fine to enjoy the thing and not play it at the hyper-competitive level. We've talked about this before. Figured it would be relevant to kind of talk about before we dive into this.
I want to talk about the state of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game in all aspects. I think it boils down to three core things when you think of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, the physical game,
Yeah.
the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game, the digital game, and especially since I'm TGS Anime, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about these three things because a lot of people have been noting how Master Duel is at an all-time low in terms of player retention and people watching or streaming it or something like that.
I've heard about this. Personally, I don't play Master Duel because, have you seen the price of the Mulcharmies? Okay? In a single payday, I got all 9 Mulcharmies, right? That was pretty expensive. But at least I can say, I own the physical card, right? I can tell you I own a physical copy of, insert Yubel card here, insert, whatever QCR, Evil Hero Dusted Gold. You don't own the card in Master Duel. So that's why I personally don't do it. I also think the lists and the formats cycle way too fast because of how aggressive they end up pushing new set releases and stuff. I think a slower release would be beneficial to them. And then, obviously, then something comes out, and then it's certain things like Phantom, if they end up getting hit, right? They make a lot of sense. But I remember I built Sky Striker, and then Sky Striker got bopped, and a couple other decks I built got bopped, and a branded got bopped, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine, because I have to, RNG gotcha for the packs, or at least RNG gotcha for, the UR. The UR slot's what gets me a lot of the time. And then be able to, dust my extras URs, or URs I don't need to be able to get the points to buy them for 30 per, right? When... yeah, I can use Wallet no Jutsu. I can be literal Seto Kaiba and just buy whatever I want on TCG Player, right? To me, sure, you can say that's a rooted anime-ism. You can make a number of commentaries on that, but I think that for me specifically... So, let's put it this way, because I was talking about this recently. I was talking about how... what do you call it? Find the actual chat I put this in. I was talking about how I proceeded to double sleeve a bunch of my stuff. So if we actually open the image, this was me yesterday morning because I was actually putting stuff together. But this is kind of how I'm rocking it. Think Mai from Duelist Kingdom, or in Duelist Kingdom when they have their toolbox and they actually do actually put their deck together for it. So the idea here is, one, especially because there's expensive things like the Mulcharmies in my toolbox, right? To just have my toolbox, and then this is all double sleeved, by the way, except for the DD Crow pile. That's actually why I had to order more, because I bought my LGS out of Katana JP size. But to just throw everything, have it in a toolbox, and cool. What format are we playing? We're playing Genesis. We're playing Advanced format. We're playing Anything Goes. Sure, let me go and I'm effectively doing the nerd the nerd equivalent of field stripping your rifle, and then replacing parts in it that you need. I want to go shoot 7.62 today. Grats. You change your barrel out from a 5.56/223 barrel to a 7.62 barrel, and then I reassemble it. It is the nerdiest thing I could ever do. But I also like the joy of owning my cards. I like the joy of feeling the physical cards, right? When you actually have people who want to learn and want to play, and above just wanting to play, actively want to engage, because as it turns out, I just want L5R back. I just want that community of individuals who are reasonable and who want to talk and have fun when playing, right? But that's also my bias, right? People don't want this. People don't want the bulk. And honestly, I don't want to talk about how much my entire toolbox has cost. But that's where I fall at as a fan. I personally just am not someone who takes a lot of joy in Master Duel. I would honestly rather do a hand cam stream, or sit in my Discord and do a hand cam thing against people than play in Master Duel, because I don't know. There's just something about not owning the product that just makes it seem silly to me. But if you enjoy it, if you like that, that's fine. You're allowed to enjoy that.
Which I think is mostly due to the meta that is currently in the game.
Yeah.
Which isn't very fun, but
yeah, too.
I've never really done like a talking about how I feel about Yu-Gi-Oh, so I thought I'd do that now because a lot of my videos are positive,
Right.
and this isn't necessarily gonna be a negative video or anything like
I actually really like that he is positive, although I also understand how this could be seen as a perceived negative, because I've had to talk about some just awful stuff, right? I've also had to talk about some stuff that people do say is pretty controversial. When we talk about it being controversial, I mean, we're talking about things like, you know, funny AK Jesus man pointing a firearm at his hand, right? Like, as I said, that was the last in a long line of just watching people IRL and on the internet be stupid with firearms, and that's why I got out of that. But even then, something like that is not necessarily going to be seen as very progressive, not very positive. And I'd argue, especially when, like, I had a rough past week. I'm not using it as an excuse, right? But I definitely get in my own head, and I definitely try to seek answers where none may exist, right? And even then, I actually don't like some of the content that I put out. Any Fat Electrician videos, I habitually I don't like them. The videos are great, don't get me wrong. Like, his content is great. My reactions is what I'm specifically talking about, where I can't stand it. And even then, as I said, we had someone in the past stream come out, and they're just like, hi, I saw your Fat Electrician reactions. And it's like, I start to understand why George Lucas doesn't like the Star Wars Holiday Special. I start to understand why someone like Dio, didn't he hate Rainbow in the Dark? He hated one of his songs. Or like Smash Mouth starts to hate All Stars, right? Like, how artists will have that thing that they're known for, but they really just, like, it starts to irk them and it starts to, like, do a thing on them, right? I don't know. I can empathize with a lot more celebrity culture and artists isms now that I've been doing what I've been doing for approximately about 3 years. But I mean, to like TGS Anime's credit, right? Like, the dude is incredibly positive. Like, I look at his sub count and I'm like, how is this man not at 1 million yet? Like, I get that Yu-Gi-Oh's niche, but like, this is literally the content we should be supporting. Not just from a Yu-Gi-Oh standpoint, but from like the standpoint of like, wow, like, this dude is actually being positive. He's being the difference. He's not just like rage baiting or doing like clickbait, you know, Konami did this. Is this the end of Yu-Gi-Oh? Yu-Gi-Oh's dying for the X time, right? I mean, like, he doesn't do that. And that, to his credit, is a strong suit.
that, but a good opportunity to talk about what I do and do not like about Yu-Gi-Oh! And what I wish they would change and wish, I guess, they don't need to change. So, yeah, here we go. We'll start simple. TGS Anime, let's talk about the anime. Or should I say the lack thereof of Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. So,
Yes.
if you're somebody that mainly watches the main series anime, the things that follow the Master Duel aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5 Monster Zones, 5 Spell and Trap Zones.
Right.
It's been a while since we've had one of them. It's been
Correct.
about 8 or 7 years, I think it has. And that's a long time. We've had something instead, which is the Rush Duel format, but the way things have gone is we started with Duel Monsters in 2002, and then we went to GX 2005,
5Ds.
5Ds 2008,
Zexal
Zexal 2011, Arc 5 2014, and then Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains in 2017. And that is the last main series anime that we had.
I mean, they also, as last I understood it, started to go, I think after Variants, they started going into, like, the Gundam Build Fighters thing. Like, you have to understand, like, something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, yes, has an engaging, compelling story about occultism and about friendship, right? Like, going back and watching Season 5, because I've never watched it before, like, I was hooked on that dark RPG arc. Like, it was amazing. And especially when you get into, like, plot twist, Bakura doesn't actually lose, right, halfway through. It was awesome to see. Like, I was on the edge of my seat. And, like, yeah, at the end of the day, it is still a vehicle to sell a children's card game. Make sure you buy our products, right? Wink, wink. And, like, we didn't get things like Diabound Colonel until, like, years later, right? I would honestly love a Diabound archetype. I think that would be really cool as somebody who habitually loves things like Destiny Hero Plasma, Relinquish, Thousand Eyes Restrict, Millennium Eyes Restrict, which run a brand of due to Instant Fusion, because that's a one-card tech out to certain hand traps like Ash Blossom on turn 1. And in things like... Silent Honor Arc and Silent Honor Dark specifically, right? I like things that can just like, or Cyber Dragon Infinity. I like things that can like yoink things and even potentially use their power for themselves. And I think it'd be a really interesting way to really deal with equipped spells, because we have like, you know, Noble Arms and like Noble Knights, right, that deal with equipped spells in certain ways. But I thoroughly and like enjoy that specifically. And like, that's the thing is like, we also didn't get the Egyptian, like Konami's also really interesting when it comes to marketing, because like it wasn't until like years later, right? Years after Duel Monsters that we finally got the Egyptian God cards in an actual playable state, right? I think it was Battle Pack Epic Dawn, maybe. I think is when we got Cypher. I think Obelisk might have been a Shonen Jump promo. But like the anime is supposed to be supplemental of their business model. Yes, you have art. Yes, you have really cool moments like the Supreme King shotgunning super polymerization against Jim Cook, right? Like, you have really cool moments like that. Or you have, like, you know, Yugi using diffusion wave motion on Dark Paladin to just win against Kaiba in Battle City, right? But then, you know, that's supposed to tie into a set release, right? So I think without the anime, without something artistic like that to latch onto, because we liked those stakes, right? I mean, yeah, Gundam Build Fighters having that kind of like grounded story has its place in some, you know, in some aspects, but I feel it played with the setting very well because Gundam Build Fighter is supposed to sell Gunpla kits. It's supposed to sell Gundam models, right? Like the 00 Quanti, I think it was, is the 00 Quanta with the cat ears, right? Is a model you can buy, right? Like. And then you see some of the cooler units, you know, power crept, like, you know, funnels, fangs, bits, etc. Those are more on the high tiers of play, right? So it's really cool to see how different things compare with each other. But I do think that the anime lacking is definitely not doing anything for Konami's business. Like, I think it's actively detrimenting them.
After that, there was a new game introduced called Rush Duel, which is a simpler and faster version of Yu-Gi-Oh, basically aimed at a younger audience. So they created a show for that called Yu-Gi-Oh Rush in 2020. And then in 2022, they had the sequel series, Yu-Gi-Oh Go Rush, which finished its final episode, I do believe, this year. So that has finished. And we haven't had a new anime announced or revealed or anything like that. And it does make me wonder if we will get another... they're just going to carry on doing the Rush side, or if they will go back to the Master Duel side, because I'm not sure. We have a sort of anime at the moment with the Yu-Gi-Oh Chronicles, which is on YouTube, but they're like,
but that's not the same
series for some of the Yu-Gi-Oh archetype stories.
That should be used as strictly promotional material. Like, I don't know, do a because we had the Blue Eyes bit come out recently. We've had Sky Striker, right? But I mean, yeah, if you have, I don't know, something like Yubel support coming out, right? Yeah, do something like a Yubel bit, right? Maybe referencing GX, because as far as I'm aware, GX, I guess, is in the pipeline for a remake. We're going to see how that goes. I will be watching that to at least see how it compares to the original, right? But definitely one of those things where, like, that should be seen as promotional material. That should not be seen as a substitution for what we used to have with the anime and how that interacted with the product, the actual physical card game.
I wouldn't really count that as Yu-Gi-Oh content kind of thing. I don't know. Like, it is Yu-Gi-Oh content, but I wouldn't count it as a series, you know?
Right,
so
correct.
My question then becomes, is the answer we should make next a new Yu-Gi-Oh Master Series show? Yu-Gi-Oh Infinity. I don't know what you call a new Yu-Gi-Oh series.
Yeah, I mean, just have a giant Battle City tournament arc. Just get, like, you know, Yuya, get you know, a bunch of people from across different series, right? Because I mean, they kind of did that with Arc 5, didn't they? Arc V. But like, I don't know enough about it as a series. I know that it's not technically them. It's kind of like that universe's version of them or something like that. I don't know. Someone's gonna be able to better explain that to me. But like, I mean, it would be cool just to have kind of a Battle City tournament arc, you know, with maybe a story. Like think like Gundam Dynasty Warriors 3. How do Setsuna F say a full frontal Benager, Amuro, Quattro, and Char Aznable, two separate personalities? Like, how do they all meet each other? Whoops, we isekai into this world, right? And we literally have precedent for it in the Yu-Gi-Oh anime as well, right? Where, you know, Mokuba gets trapped in the virtual, Kaiba gets trapped in the virtual world after Duelist Kingdom, and then Mokuba gets kidnapped, right? And then you have to go, like, they go through that whole virtual world stuff. Or like even in Yu-Gi-Oh GX, right? We had the dark dimension, right? Where you know, they go in season 3 after Jesse and Rainbow Dragon sacrifice themselves, keep the portal open, right? And send everyone else home. And then, you know, they go to literally another dimension where, you know, you have people like Scar, Scout of Dark World, Brawn, Knight of Dark World, no, sorry, Braun is Mad King of Dark World, Zero Knight of Dark World, right? And like you have like, and that thing is like, oh, cool, we get to see like Lady of Labyrinth or whatever the boss monster is for Labyrinth, right? Nova Alchemy status, right? Like we get to see Labyrinth like boss monster as a character in that anime, right? And then you have all these characters. Like there are things you can do with this that, yeah, I guess pander to the audience and are just fan service, right? But, like, I think would be really welcomed by a lot of people. And I think a lot of really cool voice actors, like Aster Phoenix's VA, who did a collab with Nova Alchemy, right, gets him back into the role, right? Like, I think it'd be super cool. Get, Eric Green and, oh, God, whoever Yugi and Kaiba's VAs are. I forget their names offhand. Like, yeah, then you have more bits with them. Like, I think it'd be super cool.
Well, it's actually kind of a weird thing. So, Because of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And the way it's gone, well, each new Yu-Gi-Oh! Series has always introduced a new mechanic to the game. So we've had Duel Monsters, which introduced the entire game. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX kind of enhanced the prevalence of fusions and sort of brought archetypes into the game a little bit more. They became more prevalent. And then obviously we get 5D, Synchro, Zexal, Xyz, Arc 5 Pendulums, which was controversial to a lot of people, and they kind of backpedaled on it because it added a bit too much. And me personally, I wasn't a huge fan of them, but once you get used to them, they're fine, but I can see why they're under-supported. And then finally with Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, we had Link Monsters, which I think a lot of older players aren't a massive fan of, but honestly, they're fine. The only problem with them sometimes is if they're a bit too generic, or like a Link 1 combo.
Once again, right here, like as somebody who plays Yubel, as someone who has every incentive to keep Fiendsmith at full power, I think that, you know, Link ones like Fiendsmith Requiem are just bad for the game, right? Sure, generic, that's how you get things like Access Code Talker, right? But like, I think Link ones are just like, from a cost benefit standpoint, from a functionality standpoint, I think that they are just too much. I think that is power creep, just on the higher end of the power creep scale.
Or something like that. If you're going to make a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, it's assumed that a new mechanic would be added to the game, and I don't think that is something Yu-Gi-Oh! Necessarily needs at the moment.
Just augment the mechanic.
I made a video a long time ago. This is before I started playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. Like, I'd only just watched bits of the shows, and then my opinion on modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Was it's too complicated, there's too many summon mechanics and stuff.
Right.
I don't necessarily feel that way anymore. It is definitely too complicated for new players.
Yes.
Because
as somebody who literally this past weekend tried to teach someone Yu-Gi-Oh! And I had to consistently backtrack to explain things like levels, to explain RTFC, to explain how certain mechanics work, to explain proper sequencing, right? Like, there is a lot to teach people, and that also becomes a problem. Because then you it's literally the problem L5R had, where Legend of the Five Rings, I love that game. Don't get me wrong. I will sing the L5R's praises till like as long as I live, right? But even just inherently playing with two decks, right? Because you had your Dynasty deck, which is full of your personalities, so like your characters and stuff, and then your Fate deck, which had a bunch of your actions and stuff, right? Like, I would have Bayushi Courtier or like Bayushi Natoshi, my clan champion, in my Dynasty deck, as well as like my holdings, like Den of Iniquity, to generate like my quote unquote mana, my gold. And then you have the Fate deck, which has like your strategies, so something like Steel on Steel, which is just a, you know, card says battle duel to, or it was, I think it was a battle specifically, dual target personalities of death, right? Or Ingenuity, which is like just like dishonor two target personalities, right? So even just dealing with two decks, you've already like you've already like locked people out of learning the game, and now you get into you know, things like, you know, 4 different win conditions, enlightenment victory, military victory, honor victory, dishonor victory. These are all things that not every deck uses it. Don't get me wrong. There was a silly Spider Clan deck in Emperor because of how the addition worked and how the rules work. They could enlighten better than like Lion Clan could. It was really funny, but like, that's one of those things where, yeah, like it keeps people from learning the game, even though it has a really cool setting and a lot of really cool lore that goes along with it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very much a game, and I've talked about this before. The worst thing you can do to someone is throw a rulebook at them and then say this is how the game works. Because that's just like, sure, that's like, I guess that's technically accurate on a technicality from a certain point of view, but like, that doesn't, I feel that is the worst thing you could tell somebody. Thus, yeah, having some like, this is how you play Yu-Gi-Oh!, even if it's a progression series, right, would be great for a lot of people, and I'm sure they exist out there, but like, getting people to understand the game, not necessarily the advanced rulings and stuff like missing timing and stuff like that, and understanding about like fan terms like spell speed 4. Like, there's a lot to learn, and that just it deters people from entering the space.
You have to know a lot. You have to know how your deck works.
Yeah.
You have to know there's so many different effects in your cards. There's a lot of different ways these cards interact with things. There's stuff that you will read and it doesn't quite work like that because there's like mechanics to the game you don't know. And with a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, like, if you're going to make new decks as part of that series, it's going to be so complicated to watch for a lot of people. Like, that was one of the problems with Vrains, I thought, where duels didn't feel as special when, I don't know, it's hard to say because they would combo with all these little pieces you wouldn't see. So summon Bitron, link it into Link Spider summons Bitron, a normal monster in hand to the field, then you link that into Link 2, this monster summons a monster for the graveyard. It's a lot like waffle monsters that are just like aspects of the deck, and then the main big things we're working towards are like the Firewall Dragons, Decode Talkers. They're kind of iconic. Whereas like in old Yu-Gi-Oh, it was like I summon, I don't know, Celtic Guardian, and like little monsters like that, they were a bit more prevalent because they would stay on the field longer and they would do things. Obviously, they aren't great cards sometimes, but
So I would actually emphasize this point. I think he's on the right track here. I think when we start talking about going through like Link Spider and stuff, Underclock Taker, if that's in the anime, right? I'm assuming it would be, and being able to like go up into, I don't know, like say Decode Talker or something like that, or Access Code Talker, right? Like that's a lot. Like let's go back to early Duel Monsters, right? Let's go to the Battle City finale of like Yugi versus Merrick, right? Where Merrick is going to set something like Bogani, and then Boganian puts a timer on Yugi, so to speak, right? Because every standby phase is like 300 damage, right? And then you have things like, Merrick lets Obelisk hit him, and then he fires off with a Metal Reflect Slime. Metal Reflect Slime turns into Egyptian God Slime, technically Egyptian God Slime, and then he ends up fusing it Polymerization, which was given to him earlier in the duel. No, or Defusion was given earlier in the duel. He ends up combining Revival Jam with Egyptian God Slime to give the Egyptian God Slime that we knew, right? And then it's very much about building a board, and I think that modern Yu-Gi-Oh builds a board, but in a different way, right? Like in a game like, I literally had this conversation a couple weeks ago. So in a game like Magic the Gathering, what do, right? Play land, play card, 5-head, right? Like, but you're building your board, right? You're building. So I'm a Tron player, right? Like, insert your own Magic the Gathering equivalent here, right? I'm a Tron player, right? Drop Urza Mine, drop Urza Tower, drop Urza Power Plant, go off there with like Karn Liberated, Karn the Great Creator, Wormcoil Engine, Walking Ballista, etc., right? Like, you are building a board, right? And there's a number of decks that are going to have like things like Birthing Pod, they're going to have kind of their permanence, right? And even in L5R, you were building a board, but in a different way, right? Where if I was playing Dishonor deck, I'm making sure that, I'm going to have Natoshi at some point in there to try to get rid of problematic cards. I have my Den of Iniquities, which are a 2 gold cost. You can tap them, bow them as it's known in the game, to create 2 gold, or you can do a thing where you can like limited target Dishonor personality. His controller loses like 2 honor, right? And like you're building into your strategy. So the equivalent Yu-Gi-Oh wise would be like, like Fire Formation Tenki and other continuous like spell traps and spells and traps like come into play, right? And thus you have like Mayan Duelist Kingdom having Mirror Wall, right? Or you'll have characters like Bakura in Season 5 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they have, a bunch of spells and traps in their back row that have different effects. Like that is building the board. We build boards in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, that is what going first is, right? So as a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, I want to go through the motions, show my work effectively, right? To get to my conclusion, which is my end board, to have something like Phantom of Yubel, Varudris, Blue Dog on board, right? And then be able to, when I special summon something, especially problematic, I'm able to like Blue Dog off into like SP Little Knight, right? But it almost feels like the way we construct a board is inverse, where back in ye olde days, Duelist Kingdom, back in days like GX era, I would assume 5Ds as well, it's, we're building the board a brick at a time, and I think it's easier for your audience to kind of latch onto, right? Where you can, it feels like, 2 magicians kind of slinging at each other, where, you'll have, Merrick gets hit by Obelisk, and then Merrick fires off Metal Reflect Slime, and then he ends up progressing his own game state by doing a thing, and then Yugi ends up doing a thing, and ends up sacrificing Egyptian God Slime later in the duel, right? Or like some of the interplay, like from GX, right? Where like Jim's Crocodile Cook ends up building a board against the Supreme King, right? And because he builds the board, right, he ends up like Ularu's Guardian, right, going into Ularu, right, and then he ends up, trying to get the Supreme King down. He's like, it was a really close duel. It was like 50 life points each, I think, or something like that. To which then Supreme King Jaden just ends up shotgunning Super Polymerization to get the overwhelming like 4K attack point, Evil Hero Dark Gaia on the field to go for game, right? Like there's enough variance because of like how the game, how the game is played, but then you can also kind of like look at the anime and you can kind of get the generic outline of turn structure, obviously compensating for things like Battle City. Every spell card is effectively a quick play, right? But you can follow it, and it's entertaining. It's short and snappy enough that it keeps your audience's attention. Unlike this tangent that I went on for the past like however many minutes, right? Like, I think he's absolutely correct, and I think that part of that goes into how we build a board in modern Yu-Gi-Oh.
It's something about like modern Yu-Gi-Oh where if you're gonna focus on how modern players play, I guess it's weird to adapt that because it's very, very combo heavy, I guess. And I don't know, like if you're a new player trying to get into the Yu-Gi-Oh game, so you think, oh, I'll watch the new series of Yu-Gi-Oh, and you're watching this Yumaku combo for like 15 minutes on his first turn, you're like, whew,
yeah, it's gonna de-incentivize
Most
you.
likely they probably will add a new Rush series again. If they're doing well in Japan with that, then I could definitely see it being the case that they carry on with Rush. I guess one of the problems as well with making a new Yu-Gi-Oh series is, unfortunately, there is a trend that the popularity of each Yu-Gi-Oh series has consistently gone down in, at the very least, public like appreciation. Like whenever I've done like a poll of best to worst series, what do you think? It's always been Duel Monsters at number 1, GX at number 2, 5Ds at number 3, and then literally it's like Zexal, Arc 5 Reigns. People have the series that they like. A lot of it is to do with when they grew up on that series, but I would say probably Arc 5 Vrains are definitely the least liked series, which is a shame because Vrains is a mature take on Yu-Gi-Oh! But it was very rushed. So that kind of ruined it, and I can understand why a lot of people didn't like it as well. Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 was a series that had an absolutely amazing premise and had the potential to be absolutely fantastic, but I just think it wasn't handled very well in terms of, like, I guess the pacing, and then the ending kind of pooed the bed, unfortunately. So, and it was attached to pendulums. So I think that storyline in maybe another one of the series could have done better, but still, I still liked it. It just wasn't that great. So I guess the question is, like, what do you do next? Do you make carry on with the Rush Duel series? Do you make a new Master Duel series? If you're going to make a new Master Duel series, what are you going to do? Probably most likely, yeah, they make a new Rush Duel series, as long as that's doing well in Japan.
Right.
And internationally. But I personally would like a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Main series show, and like what direction would I like them to take? Well, they could either do a new series, carry on the formula they've been doing before, new main character, new mechanic added to the game, new decks with each character to sell new products. But personally, I actually wouldn't be too hurt. I do like nostalgia. A lot of the old cards, I still do enjoy, and I like seeing new support for them. And nostalgia sells. Konami knows that.
Oh, 100%.
That's why, like, Yugi, Kaiba, Blue Eyes, Dark Magician, Exodia, they're all still pasted on all of, like, the marketing and everything. So, like, if they wanted to go back to the original series, bring those characters back for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 2, where we've got a new villain. It takes place after the main series, and it's like Battle City 2 or something like that. They could have a bit of fun. That's kind of what Dark Side of Dimensions is. But,
a little
like,
bit.
I wouldn't mind that. Or if they wanted to remaster the old series, I guess remake it. But you sort of follow the story beat for beat to a degree, but you give everybody their new modern decks.
That's the one, is it has to be beat for beat. Because any deviant is going to be a straight up L. Like it is not going to resonate with people. It's why, as much as I love GX, I'm very cautiously optimistic because there are definitely things I feel that they would absolutely censor or tone down.
Para and Docs with the new Labyrinth cards.
That'd be cool.
Tsunami with his Umi control deck.
Right.
Yugi can have an ever-evolving deck, and then the main thing, obviously, if you do something like that, is you need to introduce new cards into each of these nostalgia decks, because the whole point of Yu-Gi-Oh! Really is to sell products. So,
like we were talking about.
I guess there could be an appeal for that, but most people don't want to sort of retread old ground. We've seen this show once. We want to see something new. So, yeah, I mean, that's something, but something I could enjoy. Overall, my thoughts on the state of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. Rush Duel is fine. It is more for a younger audience, and it seems to be doing well, so that's fine. We don't have Rush Duels in the TCG, unfortunately.
No, we don't.
So
that's been an ask for a while.
But yeah, I would like to see a new Master Duel series. I've never felt more detached from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime sphere, because we just haven't had anything. So yeah, I'd like to see something, whether that be a remake of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters with modern day cards and like a complete revamp, or a brand new series. I'd take anything. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the...
I mean, honestly, I think I overwhelmingly agree with everything he said there, and I think we honestly strike beat for beat a lot of the same points. Like Yu-Gi-Oh is, the anime is, yeah, a vehicle to sell the physical product, the TCG. I mean, I think that going back and remaking it, I mean, would be kind of cool. But obviously, you're gonna have to deal with making sure that you can, get the voice actors back. You got to make sure that you're dealing with, especially because anime censorship is such a big topic nowadays as well, right? Where you have studios. I don't know enough about it, so I'm going to put allegedly here. Studios allegedly changing the like subbed content and changing it in the dubbed to match certain things, right? So, but I mean, then even then, like original Yu-Gi-Oh, like the Shadow Realm was like an actual like for kids censorship, right? For the concept of unlife is how we're going to call that, right? So I think I overwhelmingly agree with what he says here, and I think that the addition of a new mainline anime would be great. And like it depends on how, if Konami favors Japan or they don't favor Japan. I don't know enough about the OCG sphere, if I'm being completely honest. Yes, OCG does include more than Japan. I am aware of that. So it's one of those things where, I mean, Rush Duel, I keep hearing it does things, but I never hear what Rush Duel actually does. And yeah, we in the TCG don't have Rush Duels. We don't have that equivalent. So like that's one of those where it's like I just don't really bother with the concept of Rush Duel because it's like I can't physically play the format. There's no ability to buy a like Rush Duel structure deck or whatever they sell, right? You can't do that. Therefore, I'm just going to play advanced format or just play casually, right? Like there's nothing that interests me about the format unless we have it.
Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game, the physical TCG, and this is the aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh I have the least amount of experience with, so it's probably the one I've got the least to say about, because I don't play physically anymore. The last time I played the physical card game competitively was 2012, which was 13 years ago.
Just a minute.
I won a mat in a win a mat tournament there. I got to the second day or the second round or whatever it was, and unfortunately I lost. But that was cool. I took part in a battle pack tournament, which was really fun, and yeah, I enjoyed playing physically.
It can be a great experience.
I feel like there's a bigger learning curve with the physical card games than the Master Duel.
Yes.
I personally prefer a automated simulator because it takes away like, why isn't this card working? There's something going on that I didn't realize that's why this doesn't work. But I guess with knowledge you can learn that. But
you can. It's actually why I don't go out with my U-Belt. Well, so there's a couple reasons I don't play physically. I don't like not having that non-verbal gameplay state. I can't stand that. I can't stand when somebody is going through their plays, even if they're offering like relevant like response windows, but like just solitaring out their thing. And it's like, bro, we're playing a game here. Let's just talk, right? Like let's enjoy the thing, right? Yes, we're gonna play this at a meta sweat level because at the time it was like Lightsworn's Fiendsmith Wombo combo, right? Like we're going to do the thing. We're going to play the game. Let's enjoy this, right? But that's not the expectation, I feel. So that becomes a problem for me as somebody who grew up with L5R and like just wants a more interactive experience. And that being said, there's people who don't want that interactive experience. They just want to show up, solitaire out, cardboard, call it a day, right? Do I win? Yes, no. Similar to how I play Magic the Gathering. Do I have Tron on turn 3, Urza Mine, Power Plant, and Tower? No. Scoop, go next game. What, you're not going to enjoy the game, Kip? I didn't wombo combo. I'll just give you the game at that point. It's fine. Like, and it's not like some weird like derogatory or like self-depreciation thing. It's like, bro, like the game is just not going to play. Like I don't have the thing that I run that on turn 3. Like I'm just already that far behind. That's fine. Just go get your mana curve and just continue. Like we'll just go next game. I don't know, but like like I always miss Nightmare Throne's effect when I play physically because I don't really have the group or the people to really organically like learn it. So that's when I play Master Duel. Yeah, I'll speed through Yubel Wombo combo, but that's because the game literally tells me I have an effect to activate. There's a difference when you don't have the guardrails of Master Duel on, and you're having to remember each of the effects and how they interact with each other, right? Even if you can read the card in front of you.
I don't know much about like pricing with the physical card game, how expensive it is to get into Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
I still hear Yu-Gi-Oh is an expensive game to build a meta deck.
Competitive, yes.
I have to assume is true because I've...
Well, what is it? What's the yummy archetype? That kind of threw a wrench in things. But yeah, if you want to get your Mulcharmies and stuff, oh, you're paying.
A few people say it's expensive to like how much would a Malice deck or a Ryzeal deck or whatever's currently like the top meta deck actually cost in the physical card game at the moment? So okay, the meta at the moment is the cheapest meta in years. That's quite interesting. I know when like some meta defining card comes out, like I think like when Lightning Storm first came out, that was like
I just checked on Yu-GiOh Pro Deck. I come to your own conclusion on that. Allegedly, we're looking at a $1,216 off of TCG Player, but that's also TCG Player potentially inflated rate. Obviously, these have now looks like these like Sword Ryzeal and Extra Ryzeal looks like they've also gone down to 1 copy each. Bonfire gone down to 1, so obviously you can mitigate some of these costs. However, you do start to see certain cards crop up. This is also OCG because you have access to Max C, double called by. Like, it can be very expensive. It absolutely can. What's the current running rate for Yubel deck? According to TCG Player, it looks like $210, so that actually went down. I also like to holofoil a bunch of my stuff. I don't have QCR Thrones, but I do have whatever the 2025 tin released. I like my shiny cardboard. I dropped way too much on it.
A very expensive card. But one of the things about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is they reprint cards a lot. So I watched someone who does like a card game seller or whatever, and he brought some Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards in.
Dude's actually a vendor.
Value, really. You'll have the odd couple cards that have value, but for the most part, Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards are kind of worthless because they reprint them all the time.
Yeah.
There are some cards that do hold value, but
absolutely,
it's good and bad, I guess. Like, I've never wanted to collect Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards or to like finish a set of cards. I'm sure there are people out there that do that, but like unlike Pokemon, like when that
people will actually have their binders and they will complete a set up into including the secret rares. It is a very costly endeavor that I've watched happen.
Fun Celebrations set came out, which was in lockdown, funnily enough.
Yeah.
I felt really like I wanted to complete this. I wanted to relive childhood a little bit and try and get the Celebrations set. So I enjoyed doing that, and I finished it, and God knows how much I spent on it, but
yeah,
I did it, and that actually made me want to go back and finish my old base set, which that cost a lot of money. That was like, I think I paid like 1,000 something pounds to finish my
fair and reasonable price, actually.
Wizards of the Coast base, Fossil, Jungle, Rockets.
Wild.
And I didn't finish the promos because I saw how much Birthday Pikachu was, and I was like,
yeah,
none of that. I think for a lot of new players, it's quite daunting getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! I've had quite a few people say they go onto like Master Duel and they just get like bombarded by absolute combos. And I think I probably felt like that at first when I started replaying Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. But you do get used to it. It's just literally a case of just learning a single deck to start with. And then you start learning other people's decks to realize I need to interrupt them at these certain points because decks can play through stuff.
Right. It's like why you Ash Blossom the Samsara D Lotus versus you potentially Samsara versus you Ash Blossoming like My Dark Beckoning Beast, right? Like there are just better points in the chain to hit, and that's where understanding how not only the game plays, but how understanding your potentially what your opponent's playing. Although if you're going first, you don't really have anything. No, you just have Ash Blossom in hand, right? Like you're seeing them use an Ash Blossom from their hand. Like, that's actually why Ash Blossom, in my opinion, is a skill play, because you can absolutely Ash the wrong thing. You can Ash the suboptimal thing. A good player will have Ash scale up into the upper echelons of competitive play. Absolutely. Yeah, but especially when you start getting into decks that can just play through that, which makes me actually wonder what the effect of just playing a deck with not 20 hand traps. Maybe you're obligatory like a few like Ash Blossom and Infinite Permanence, but just actually building a deck to just play through a bunch of hand traps makes me wonder what that would actually look like.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an interesting thing in terms of like power level. I do think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is... I talked about this before. So there's a show called My Hero Academia. It's very popular. Probably definitely know it.
I've seen parts of it.
There are people in that world that have superpowers. They're called quirks. And when people first started getting superpowers, they were really basic. They were like a baby can glow, or someone has like stretchy fingers or something. That's like the limit of their power level. And that was kind of like early Yu-Gi-Oh! However, as time has gone on and people with powers have like bred with each other, they've created like uber powerful power combos with their children. They're getting stronger and stronger. So now people have like city destroying level powers. And then the theory is, as time goes on, eventually they'll have like world ending powers as just people have. And that's a scary thought. That's how I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh's gone. Like,
Yeah, it's just the concept of power creep. Absolutely.
the days of a card just saying like add this card to your hand, it's now add this card to your hand, special summon this card from your hand if your opponent controls no card. Well, doesn't even have to control no cards.
Right.
Then if this card is in the graveyard, you can banish it while this card remains on the field. It's got like a bunch of different effects. So
I actually like I like when how simplistic like something like Spirit of Yubel is. Like it has like 3 or 4 different effects, don't get me wrong, right? It has protection from like battle destruction, right? It has a few different effects, right? But they're all like, it's not necessarily sequential as much as they're all just like simple sentence on the card RTFC status. I think if we saw more of that design rather than sequential like sequential complexity, if that makes sense, I think that might make a more easily approachable game state. But like, yeah, I mean, remember when Elemental Hero Bubbleman came out, and like in the anime, it's like, this is the only card that I control. I get to draw 2 cards, and it's like, it must be the last card in your hand. At my end, the must be the only card you control. And now we have things like, not that it does the same thing, but now we have things like Sky Striker and Gauge that are just 3 of in a deck, right? And like certain things like Sekka's Light, I'm pretty sure they go after on the ban list, right? I'm pretty sure that one was gone after. But like with something like, well, even the Card of Sanctity as well, because in the anime it was like effectively your hand refresh, right? It was like your end from Pokemon, right? Where, you know, yes and no. It was more like Professor's research, honestly. Where like, you know, you draw until you have 6 cards. It's a mix of the two. You draw until you have 6 cards in the hand, then we get in the TCG, and it's like a heavily nerfed version of that. But like, I mean, that card would definitely be on the ban list. If Pot Agreed would be on the ban list, right? I don't know. Like, there's a number of things to draw from there in regards to power creep. How unapproachable the game is to a lot of people. Power creep intertwining with complexity and certain things just being absolutely just oppressive.
it's
Like
yeah,
Engraver,
it does
right?
feel like decks are so powerful now that every deck has the capability to end a duel in a single turn. And if they go first, they have the ability to stop your opponent from doing anything during their turn by either negating everything or interacting with them more than they can play to get set up. And I think some of the moments I've had in the past on specifically like Master Duel, it's really demoralizing to my opponent's gone first. I have had no way to interact with them when they went first. They've built this board of cards.
Yep.
And I've just activate this, negated. Summon this, destroyed. Activate that, negated. And
Bro, when you get like the quad Omni on board, you're just like, bro, why am I playing this game?
every single one of my cards is gone. I didn't get to play the game.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's one of the worst feelings you can have in Yu-Gi-Oh! But that's kind of a creating generic boss monsters problem that you give Omni negate effects to.
And so this is why we see Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis kind of taking the Warhammer 40k route, where, sure, they'll have like the Eldari Wraith Knight when they launch whatever their codex is, it'll be X points. But if tournament results show that people are just using the Wraith Knight, yeah, they might increase point values. Back before Eldari got their 10th edition codex, right? It was like 495 points to use a Wraith Knight, right? And then going into how the faction changed, I mean, they're down to like 430 or something like that. I think it was like 395 or something like that. I can't remember offhand what the actual values are, but the sword and board one was cheaper. Right? We've talked about this. It makes sense why they went this way for an alternative format. And I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Ends up being a modular game that I feel is best enjoyed at a more casual level, where not everyone is going to be running, you know, your mulch armies. Not everyone is going to be running, when it was legal, your D-shifter, right? Might be at 1. I don't remember what D-shifter's at currently right now, right? Especially because lingering effects are, a lot of people just across the board don't agree with it, right? Which is also why, you know, I like owning physical product, right? I would very much love to purchase more Yu-Gi-Oh! Product. I would have to be, I need to have my channel grow to a point where I'm making probably about double what I want to make, right? What I'm currently making. One, for bills, but also like to build up and double sleeve an entire toolbox of like, you're learning Yu-Gi-Oh! might not necessarily be the best idea to teach you using something like Sky Strikers or Yu-GiOh. Because I can play Yu-GiOh. I just ended up playing Yu-GiOh at a suboptimal level, which I did this past weekend, where it's like, yeah, I'm not wombo comboing for 20 minutes. It's like, Grats, you attack me, drop the spirit of Yu-GiOh on board, Yu-GiOh does this. And then, explaining, hey, you have a card in your hand, because I had them play with their hand revealed, right? Like, I like modular playing Yu-GiOh up to high levels and low levels of play. Because you could just choose not to activate stuff, right? You don't have to play optimally all the time, especially if you're teaching someone the game. So that way you can kind of mitigate some of the costs there. But like, yeah, cool. Let's go play Frognarks, right? Treeborn Frog, Caius, Shadow Monarch, right? Play something like that. It's a little more simple. Or, hey, you want to get a little more complexity. Why not something like Cleaforts? Why not something like Necros, right? Boojins even, right? And even, throw the ban list to the side because you're playing, a not advanced format when you're teaching, right? How do you as treat it like a dual puzzle, right? How do you, with the deck I have given you, which absolutely can't out this, how do you out a Kaiser Coliseum with a Bujin Yamato with a Crane and Honest in hand? How do you out this, right? And I think Yu-Gi-Oh! At its core could be, and this is what I've said on gaming in general, gaming is a way to connect people. You could be a CEO of a Fortune 500 multi-billion-dollar corporation. You could be someone working, a dishwasher like I was for years and years and years, or somebody who's just well off middle of the road, right? And gaming is kind of that great equalizer, right? It also builds a lot of skill sets, right? Me being able to sequentially read things comes from Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Me being able to understand phases and being able to understand game etiquette, a lot of that came from Legend of the Five Rings, right? L5R, and it translates to other games as well. So yeah, I'll play something like Yu-Gi-Oh, and you will genuinely hear me every single time, even when I do casual play. Draw phase, standby phase, good, question mark. Main phase, cool, we're good. And then I'll go off of my play. Summon, response, question mark. Like, I'll go through the motions and have a very structured way in which I approach it, in Magic as well. Urza's Tower, tap this, play this, right? And giving ample opportunity. And even able to have that banter in between, right? Where it's like, someone says that they don't necessarily understand how Phantom works, and they're worried it's going to fuse off into, say, Yu-GiOh loving Defender Forever, and you're like, well, actually, about that, I mean, it can't do that. I don't have to do that, especially in a competitive setting, as my opponent at any time can and would read the card, right? RTFC. But like, especially when teaching and having those casual moments and trying to build each other up, well, actually, Phantom Yu-GiOh can't be used as a fusion material, and then okay, and you build each other up. That's the Yu-Gi-Oh I want.
I think they're starting to lean much more away from that, so I feel like this problem can be solved as long as they slowly ban Omni powerful extra deck monsters that everyone can play. We get those out of here slowly, or at least nowhere near as prevalent. And every new deck that gets made, there isn't multiple things that can just stop your opponent from playing. Cards obviously should interact with the opponent, but I don't think it should just be, no, you can't do that. It needs to be like, destroy that card, bounce.
It needs to be targeted. You just can't have an Omni, I'm just going to negate that Red Eyes Dark Dragoon effect, right? And remember, Dragoon's effectively power crept at this point. He's absolutely correct.
That card, reduce that card's attack. So, but it's hard to design for, because we've sort of got to this point now. Yu-Gi-Oh will never go back to a simpler form of Yu-Gi-Oh. So I think the only way that Yu-Gi-Oh works in the future is just literally, you have to bring everybody up to the same level. So all decks need to be the same level.
And then it also becomes homogenized as well, because then you just have like, well, what do people refer to the Mulch armies as? Just like worse versions of Max C, right? But you've kind of homogenized as this is a Max C-like effect, or this is a Shifter-like effect, right? Or this is, insert thing here, right? Like if something was just Sky Strike, or like Bonfire being like a Pyro Rhoda, right? Like that's what we talk about, right? It starts to become homogenized. I also really like how Gunvolt in his chat, Yu-Gi-Oh is also designed with siding in mind and not a best of one in Master Duel. I hardcore agree with that, and I think that does lead to some degenerative actions in Master Duel, because like you will just sleaze people out of that game. Like you would just cheese those games. No, he's absolutely correct. I think that I think that might be Herald players out there. Herald of Pure Light, Herald of Orange, Green, and Purple Light. Is that maybe why the deck is fun for you guys? Because there is a level of play involved where you have to have the right thing like Orange Light to out monster effects. I'd be curious to hear from Herald players.
Everybody is so powerful. As Syndrome would say, well, if everybody's super, nobody's super. But you can just compete together at a decent level then. It probably wouldn't take away the fact that if you didn't do anything, you're just going to get one turn killed.
Sure.
But Yeah.
That's
And like
yeah, just
the
play the
lead
game.
on to that is to counter these people that can build like insanely good first boards, which is everyone really now.
Yeah.
They put these insanely broken going second cards like Maxi, the Mulcharmies, which lets you draw every time your opponent summons or does anything. Drawn Lot Bird, which stops your opponent from adding any cards from their deck to the hand. Dimensional Shifter, any card sent to your opponent's graveyard is banished. And like, it just seems like an extreme on that end as well. So your options in Yu-Gi-Oh! Most duels, they either end up as I go first, I build an insanely powerful board because my
Oh, like let's listen to him explain this. We've talked about this before. Your first turn is building your board. Your second turn, second player is going to be cracking that board. Do you crack the board? Yes, no. If you don't crack the board, you're probably going to lose. If you do crack the board, it's going to be a build up and do it all over again. Literally, someone who isn't me explaining the same exact thing, right? Like, I don't know. I like pointing things out because I feel like I'm like my own echo chamber sometimes. And then like seeing other people actually like outline the things I talk about is great because then I could point and be like, that, the thing.
opponent had nothing they can interact with. My opponent's turn, they don't get to play, really. I win. I go first. I have an insanely powerful combo. I go to play it. My opponent drops a max C on me. Okay, I either end my turn and lose because my opponent has guaranteed to make a really powerful board, or I play into the max C, give my opponent a 30-card hand, and they've guaranteed to win because there's no way you can compete with that. So it's a lose-lose situation. Obviously, banning max C is the right answer there, but there's always going to be cards like that. So I guess like Drawn Lot Bird is a similar thing if you can't play into it. There are some decks that can, but it's just one of those. Obviously, there is a third scenario. I had Maxi, I dropped Maxi, my opponent activates Ash Blossom, I activate Cold Bite, I activate Crossout, and then, okay, now we just play with our decks, which sometimes feels healthier, but obviously, you need to be able to interact with your opponent, because letting your opponent do what they want is a problem. It's such a hard thing to fix, really. Not that it necessarily needs fixing, but it needs to be balanced just right. From what I hear, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game meta at the moment is actually in quite a healthy place. I think there is quite a variety of powerful modern decks that are all competing at the same level. I don't think there's anything too toxic out there. There'll be some stuff, don't get me wrong, that are just like one-offs that appear. But from what I hear, yeah, I think the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG is probably in a healthy place in terms of deck variety, which is the most important thing, I would say. You never want to make people be forced to play the most powerful deck, or else you're at a disadvantage, which...
You don't want a Teledad format. You don't want to play Teledad format or the deck that beats Teledad format, and everything else is irrelevant because Teledad just beats everything, right? You don't want a tier 0 format.
It's always a shame because I like to play some older decks, and I would like to know that one of my favorite older decks could sort of keep up in modern day, whereas if you put that against the most powerful meta deck, you're not going to stand a chance. But that obviously only really matters if you're playing very competitively.
So, and this is where I think a community night actually comes into play here. Like building that community, which don't get me wrong, is hard, right? I've been trying to do certain things in Final Fantasy, raiding in Destiny for a hot minute again, and just like building that community and like the scheduling is also just a really hard thing to get down, right? But like if TGS Anime just said, everybody going on insert date here, want to go and have kind of a community day on Master Duel. You know, let's see what funny and cool builds you have out there, right? And if somebody shows up with like hyper sleaze, like hyper optimized, like, you know, whatever, yeah, they're gonna be that guy, right? Like, yeah, but then if someone shows up with, I don't know, like Yubel Fiendsmith, sorry, not Fiendsmith, Yubel Evil Hero, sleaze, right? Or I don't know, they show up with like plant whatever, right? It's that sense of community and being able to work with each other to be like, okay, we don't have to play hyper optimally. We want to still win the game, don't get me wrong. But just making that expectation of like, yeah, let's just see what cute, silly, whatever you guys got to showcase, right? Maybe some dude brings like, I don't know, like Wombo Combo Cyber Dragon. Maybe they're like Cyber Dragon with Cyber Darks, and maybe they'll be able to make it work in just the right way, right? Like, or someone brings in like Weather Report, right? Like Weather Report, Yu-Gi-Oh! For Realman status, right? Like it could open up some really cool things like that. And I think everyone has a lot of fun because everyone at Locals, having seen this happen, everyone at Locals wants to fight the dude playing like, you know, Royal Magical Library, Bamboo Swords, Exodia, when, you know, people just kind of like, I guess we're just playing another game when they have to fight like meta sleaze, right? Like, we need more of the dude playing Royal Magical Libraries Exodia at locals, right? Just show up, proceed to be like, we're just gonna go play this. I don't even care how this goes, right? And then like have fun with it, right? Like, and yeah, obviously if you're playing for points, if you're obviously trying to get to like regionals or something like that, or worlds, like absolutely, yes, that's a different thing than mine, right? But I think overall there's a commentary on how if you show up with like Arike, like Blue Eyes Dragon Rulers, I mean, they're 7 and 8s, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, yeah, you might have a really fun time when somebody's just like, no, we're playing this, right? And you just like drop sleaze on board, and then everyone has a good time. I think a lot of people want that rather than always playing optimally.
Most of the time anyway, but yeah, the solution to that as well is just boost the power levels of older decks, give them new support and everything, so yeah, everybody can have a little bit of love, I think. There's like 8 decks you can win with the moment. That's perfect then. People are winning wheat regionals with the wildest stuff. That's what you like to hear. So
that's what you want to see.
Something that's just been announced by Konami. They want to sort of make something for, I guess it's for people that don't like some aspects of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And like a little bit of the older game. It's something called Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis. It's just a game type that they're going to host some tournaments with. It's interesting. So I played...
It's just Yu-Gi-Oh! 40K is how I describe it.
The early days collection. And in the old Game Boy games, when you built your deck, cards would have a numerical value. And you'd have like 500 points you're allowed to use for a deck. So you could only build a deck with that many points. So powerful cards had like 100 points. Weak cards had like 5 points. And they're sort of implementing that into a game. They've attached numerical values to cards on a website. So you can build a deck and it has to match that. Ideally, you would probably put those numbers on cards when they're made, because that sounds a little bit of a hassle, having to search them all the time.
So that actually leads into where this could lead into, like, whether it's the Yu-Gi-Oh! App. Because the way Warhammer does it is, like, yeah, they print the physical product, and they say, your Adeptus Custodi unit is X, right? Like, it has that much point value when building, right? When constructing your army. But, like, as the metagame shifts, the fact that it's not on the model is actually the selling point. From a competitive standpoint, I actually abhor it personally, because then it's like, why did I buy the codex? Why do you just not have this as a subscription service that just, like, why are you still printing the codex if the codex becomes irrelevant in like 3 months anyways, right? Especially if they like errata what they do and stuff. Like Eldari got like, what was the Strings of Fate, when that was the reroll the dice, that got like quad nerfed or something in like 9th going into 10th or something like that. Wild stuff. But like that's how they can organically respond to things. So like, let's say hypothetically you go to a next event, right? And 90% of players are playing like triplicate copies of Exodia, right? Like they're just doing the dude from Battle City, right? And then Konami looks at this and goes, wow, this is really hyper degenerate, especially with this Exodia fusion deck as well. And then they start assigning Exodia point values, right? Like, they can respond to that. Now, imagine if they made an already... Because I would argue Yu-Gi-Oh! Already has a cluttered card problem, right? So if we look at something like Yubel... let's just look at Yubel, right? Actual just vanilla Yubel, right? We look at Yubel, and it's like, okay, well, you got the name, you have the attribute, you have the levels, you have, obviously, the artwork, it's whatever. You have your attack value, you have your defense value, you have all of this down here. What is this? No one really deals with the ID number. First edition, limited edition, yes, people do deal with. Obviously, the copyright information. You have your attribute, you have what type of monster it is, so Fiend Effect. In the case of Yubel Loving Defender Forever, it's going to be Fiend Fusion Effect, right? And then you have the effects, which you have to read through sequentially. Cannot be destroyed by battle. Period. It's just facts. You picked no battle damage for battles involving this card. Period. Fact. That's just how that happens. Second part of the effect. Before damage calculation of this card, before damage calculation, comma, which is a relevant distinction between a colon or a semicolon. If this face-up attack is a card's target for attack, inflict damage, colon. So sequential, and then apply if it's targeted for an attack. Inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of monster's attack. Bam. Third part of the effect. Once per turn during your opponent's end phase, tribute one monster or destroy this card. Fourth part of the effect. When this card is destroyed except by its own effect, its owner can special summon Yubel Terra Incarnate from their hand, deck, or graveyard. 5 different effects on a card, right? Where are you going to add the point value? I guess technically, sure, maybe under the left here where like it says, so Fiend effect, right? Just go draw a line right from Fiend straight down. But then I feel that misbalances the attack and defense values, and you're going to have to reprint everything with those new markers, right? So then we go to here and we're like, okay, well, what about Loving Defender Forever? And it's like, okay, you look at Loving Defender Forever and it's like, sure, I guess the spot that you would use is, yeah, the same line, attack and defense. But like, where are you going to put those point values? So we already, as well, I will say, we do already look at the ban list, right? Because if you look at a card right now, you don't know if a card is banned or not. You go Yu-Gi-Oh ban list, right? And then you have to go to Konami or go to Neuron, their app, right? And then you have to view the list. And it's like, okay, well, like, and I deal with this every time I try to build branded. I go, okay, well, is branded fusion still on the list? And I go, branded fusion, and oh my god, what do you mean branded fusion is now semi-limited? Oh, please free branded fusion, make it go back to 3. But that's the thing, is I still thought this was limited, right? So we already have to do this as is. I mean, if you're playing at a competitive level, you are referencing these resources, right? So we already kind of do this as is. It wouldn't be so different to, instead of Yu-Gi-Oh ban list, Yu-Gi-Oh point values, or branded expulsion being forbidden. I actually didn't know about that. Interesting. I totally missed that combo. But like, you already have to reference resources to play in advanced sanctioned events already. So it's just, you're not using a ban list now, you're just using an updated points value Excel spreadsheet, right? So I personally am not too put off by that, if I'm being completely honest. However, I do see the issue with it, and I do acknowledge the issues that people are going to have with this. To me, I just treat it like 40k, if that makes sense.
But I guess if the database is easy to use and everything, it's not so hard. But that sounds like it could be fun, and it doesn't have link monsters, and it doesn't have pendulum monsters in the game. So I can see that appealing to some people. And there's no ban list, so you could put Maxi in your deck, but it's going to cost like 100 points. So interesting. Rechef of Destruction, but for real life, absolutely. Yeah. They can't print them on the cards, they need to be adjust point values over time. Yeah, I guess so. That is true. One of the big things I think is a problem for Yu-Gi-Oh, which I think I touched on a little bit earlier, is new players. I've had people come to me say, make a video, how do new players get into the game? I
honestly, I've considered this, bro. I don't even know where to start. See, like, the thing is, I'm definitely going to make mistakes. Like, obviously, like, a lot of, like, if I, like can go over Bell, right, and explain the thing, and then I just have to remember how commas interact with semicolons interacting with colons, like, I can do some of that. But when we start talking about mistiming, when we start talking about certain interactions, like the whole Book of Moon versus Guardian Chimera situation, right, like, that's when I feel that I'm not the correct person to do this. And I feel that it's a monumental task for anyone to really to cover, right?
Don't know.
Like, it's a hard subject.
You're throwing a lot at people to learn Yu-Gi-Oh! Because you need to learn how the game is played mechanically. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of, like, hidden rules mechanically you might not know, like turn priorities.
You hear priority, someone goes back to the form, and you can just declare priority for the thing to go through. You have a lot of older players' ears perk up when you say priority.
Inherent summoning, which is actually called built-in summon mechanics.
Yep.
How things that don't start a chain, things that start a chain. You just need to know these little things, how cards work. The fact that, like, if a sentence is in brackets, it can't be negated or affected because it is classed as a mechanic. For example, what was a recent example?
It's a good example of that, actually. I don't know this.
Malice Heart's Crypta says if it points to anything, this card's effects cannot be negated. And that's in bracket.
I need to actually look at this because I've never seen this. Quick effect, target one of your banished Malice cards, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do, banish one card on the field. While this card... Okay, yeah, so it's a parenthesis, specifically. While this card points to a monster, this effect, an activation cannot be negated. So I guess you could say that would be at spell speed 4, right? Once again, spell speed 4 is not technically an actual term. It's used to describe something like Magical Meltdown interacting with, like, Invocation because it can't be responded to, which, if I understand it correctly, Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder's, like, was it Cerulean Skyfire spell, has a weird interaction with things that can't be targeted like that, or can't be dealt with like that. This actually makes a lot of sense, because I feel this is... Because it's not... How do I word this? It's like, it's a clarification on the effect. It's not a different effect as much as the way that this is presented, that it clarifies while this is co-linked with something, right? While this is pointed to, points to, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Tiny font, I'm having to read. Points to a monster, right? Has not co-links, that's something a little different, right? That's link monster to link monster, right? This effect in activation cannot be negated. I actually like how this is done. I've actually like written paragraphs using this exact structure. Like that actually makes sense because it makes sure to clarify and make sure that like it's clear with that effect. I actually like that. I didn't know that was an interaction. That was really cute.
So when I had skill drain on the field, they used their ability under skill drain. I was like, what? It's not negated because it's a mechanic, not a thingy. How the hell was I supposed to know that?
I actually disagree with certain things design wise. So if you if you say I have Dante of the Burning Abyss, right? Words brain. There of the Burning Abyss. So let's go look at Dante really fast because a lot of people have seen Dante, right? But if you look at Dante, right, because it's an Nixie monster, once per turn you can detach a material from this card and choose a number from 1 to 3. Then send as many cards from your deck to the graveyards. But like the thing I disagree is that even when his effect is negated, you can still detach. You won't get the effect, but you can still detach, thus getting the Burning Abyss in the graveyard, like if it's under skill drain, because it's cost to activate. But where I come into contention with that mechanically is like, but if your effect is negated, are you not treated as a blank text box? But you're technically not treated as a blank text box, and you can still attempt to activate, but the effect is negated, and you've already paid the cost. I disagree with that, but that's how the interaction goes, and that's how the game's played. And so, or like, for example, as well, like discarding, right? Burning Abyss, regardless, that's why you use Karma Cut, Phoenix Wing Wing Blast, right? With Burning Abyss. They don't care how they're discarded, as cost or not. Shadalls do care, as they have to be discarded by effect, like Dark Worlds, right? They cannot be discarded by cost and trigger their effects. But you wouldn't know that unless you knew what you were looking for, right? You wouldn't know that unless you were knowing, like, what you were getting into and what to look for, right? And that's going to be very demoralizing for somebody to like Shadal. I love Shadal. And then suddenly they're like, well, I used Karma Cut, and it's like, well, Karma Cut discards as cost, and cost doesn't, but it says discard, right? And you have to explain the nuance that it's gonna throw people out of the game.
Now I know.
Yeah.
So, like a new player trying to learn Yu-Gi-Oh. I mean, I did that Yu-Gi-Oh to Yu-Gi Pro series where I got my friend and I gave him a different era of Yu-Gi-Oh deck every month, taught him normal how to play, then I gave him fusion monsters, synchro monsters, Xyz monsters,
I think that's
pendulum monsters, then link monsters, and then I made a deck with a little bit of everything and just
very smart.
If he could do well with it. It's so much to ask of someone to learn all that.
Yes.
And then I guess it is a lot. So I don't know, like what would you say to someone to learn Yu-Gi-Oh? Where would I send you to learn how to play and get into Yu-Gi-Oh? Would I send you?
I wouldn't send you to an LGS if I'm being completely honest. I feel that they just wouldn't be accommodating.
To the anime? Maybe. I guess you could learn a little bit of something from.
Yes, actually, start with the anime because at the very least you start getting the basic turn structure. Hear me out. Throw them a rule book out of a structure deck because we know we all have those lying around, or I'm sure there's a PDF somewhere as well. Throw them the rule book. And preferably one from the era, especially if there's a PDF available, because it's going to have like your monster zones, your spell and trap zones, your graveyard, your fusion deck slot, right? Ideally, your extra deck slot, as it's known now, right? But like, and then have them go through, and it's like, well, what phase are they in, right? Well, Yugi ended up summoning the Feral Imp against Mako Tsunami, and then he ended up attaching Horn of the Unicorn, so clearly he's in main phase 1, right? Like, if you're teaching it, do it like a teacher would, right? Like go through it and, sequentially build up those skill sets, right? So by the time they get to Battle City, they've built up the understanding of like, okay, when Merrick activates Metal Reflect Slime, clearly they're still in battle phase at that point, right? Yu-Gi would not have left battle phase for him to interact with that, and you would know he would still be in battle phase, right? Because it's in response to Obelisk the Tormentor's attack, right? And obviously as a trap, it can activate at spell speed too. Even though they take like an episode shift over and they take some dialogue from Eric to explain, you fool, I wanted you to attack me with Obelisk the Tormentor. Now I will create a monster that rivals an Egyptian god, right? And like his exposition, you still understand. You still have that built up understanding that they're still in battle phase at that point.
On that, what anime would I recommend? Well, it'd have to be like Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, because that teaches you about everything. But I don't know if I'd recommend Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, because there'd be a lot of stuff happening they probably wouldn't understand straight away. But I send them to Master Duel. Does that teach you how to play the game? No, not really.
No.
And even if you kind of learned how to play it, what are you going to do next? You go into ranked and get absolutely obliterated, and you don't really get a chance to properly learn because you're getting like shafted so much. That's probably not going to work either. Yeah, it would be nice if Master Duel added like a proper how to play the game tutorial thing.
It'd be great.
And some much lower level play, so it's easier to transition in, learn the lower level play, and then sort of advance up kind of thing.
Well, you already have like we're gonna give you Monarchs, go play Monarchs. We're gonna give you like what is it? End of the World archetype. I can't remember what it's called. Like Demise King of Armageddon, right? Whatever, Queen of Armageddon, right? Like they give you some of those like dual puzzle status, right? And dual puzzles are obviously like more advanced, especially like the DS games and stuff, right? But like, yeah, just give someone this is how we're going to teach you how to play the game, and you give them something super straightforward, like I don't know, like Boojins or something, right? So Boojins would be like maybe the like Ixie poster child, right? Something like I don't even know, something like Stardust Dragon, maybe, just like generic like Dragon Ixie box, right? Or sorry, not Ixie, generic Dragon Synchro box, right? And then you have things like, that you drop like Clearwing, Synchro Dragon, not Crystal Wing, right? I don't know. Like you could do something like Infernoid, I think would be a really fun one to learn how milling works and stuff, right? It's pretty straightforward how it interacts with each other, right? Maybe you could use synchros off of that, but I think I'm also biased towards Fiends and Infernoids. Like, there's not really a good way to onboard people. And I think this actually starts running into the Destiny 2 problem of, if you want to learn the lore, do you read the lore things in game? Yeah, you can. Or, like everyone else, do you just watch like My Name is Bife, right? If you want to learn the Dark Souls lore, do you play game? Well, yeah, I mean, ideally you play the game. But if you want to know about certain things, do you not look up Vadi Vidya? Do you not look up channels like Hawkshaw, which I've actually enjoyed some of their stuff. They've gone deep on a few things, right? Or insert your other Dark Souls channel here, right? So, especially the Destiny problem is that there's not really a way to do certain things efficiently and effectively without the community, right? The Bife videos, right? And even then, apparently they know this as well, because that's when the whole Red War copyright thing came up. They had to use Bife's videos, and they were dismissed because it's like, bro, you're using someone else's videos. Come on now, right? So I think there is a relatable a through line there, right? Like you could relate Konami kind of at this point leaning into the community to kind of teach people without an anime as kind of a base, much like Destiny 2. Like, what happened in the Root of Nightmares raid? Yeah, we destroyed Nezarec, but what consequences does this have, right? And then, Bife will tell you the lore.
The best way to learn the game is straight up trial by fire. That's right, really. It's just something you just got to keep throwing yourself at. You learn how to play your deck to the best of your abilities, and then you advance on that by learning what your opponents are doing, what you need to stop, and then that's how you kind of get better at Yu-Gi-Oh! And
that's more advanced too.
Essentially, it's probably the best way to learn is how I learned. I watched the anime series, I'd played the physical card game for a while, and then I jumped onto Master Duel, got absolutely shafted, and then you just keep playing and you keep learning and you get better. Not that I'm a good duelist or anything,
better than I am.
I did get invited to a Yu-Gi-Oh! Invitational, and I did win every single one of my duels on the first day and got into the second round. Unfortunately, I lost.
He's better than I am. Like, good stuff. Someone in his chat also says happy birthday, TGS. If it was his birthday, happy birthday, TGS Anime.
The Umi control, but I might have been able to do a little bit better in hindsight, but let's not dwell on that anymore. Yeah, like the timer in Master Duel, I guess on ranked, is a big problem for new players as well.
Yeah.
I mean, like I struggle with the timer in Master Duel because of I'm like trying to learn the deck as I go. So I'm probably more incentivized to play on like against the AI, I guess.
Yeah.
As someone who started playing during Link era and only watched the original shows, it took like a year completely by myself to understand, and I'm still not good at playing. So that actually brings me on quite nicely to the place I spend the most amount of time, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. So a lot of stuff that I talked about with the TCG applies here, where, yeah, going against somebody that makes an Omni-Negate board and you can't do anything in a best of one game is ridiculous. Playing against someone playing every single Floodgate under the sun, you will say, okay, just play Harpy's Featherduster and loads of spell and trap removal. But not everybody's going to play that. And you need to... Master Duel's about...
I also will say, as someone who has habitually had people definitely complain about Yu-Bell when I play it, and they're just like, man, this deck is bad. And I respond with just play back row removal 5-head. If you destroy Nightmare Pain, what can I physically do? Right? I am guilty of falling into this, to be fair. Like, I am guilty of, like, but not everyone can play that, and it's accommodating on the meta, right? Like, it's dependent on the meta. When a meta shifts back into, like, I don't know, like 3x Harpy Feather Duster or something like that, probably going to run into issues with Yubel, right? Especially if there's, like, a point value for Genesis that's like, yeah, you just Harpy Feather Duster, like, Yubel's entire back row, right? That's going to be a little bit of a hard sell.
Building a deck that can deal with the most amount of decks as possible. Whereas when you go into like a tier 0 meta, like we're kind of in at the moment, it's not necessarily tier 0, where it's just Malice and it's Ryzeal.
Yeah.
You either side for Malice, and you can probably get a guaranteed win against them if you draw the perfect out for them. Ryzeal's not as easy to do, but like if you're siding for this deck, you're not siding for this deck. So,
right. The overlap isn't there.
It's just one of those.
And you just take the
way I
L.
play Master Duel is every month I pick a new deck. Most of the time a rogue tier deck, something older or something not as meta prevalent, and I tried to see if that deck can get to the top of the master rank. Earlier in the game, probably the first year, I could play anything and I get to top rank. Second year, that was kind of true. This third year now, it's very hard. Like, decks are so much stronger than they were just a couple years ago that you kind of have to play something a little bit modern if you even want to stand a chance, because a lot of decks now have like just 1-card combos. So they'll have a bunch of 1 cards that can make them go full combo, and because of that they have loads of space to put in Ash Blossoms, Maxis, Call by the Graves, Crosslight Designators, Droll and Lockbirds, every single hand trap to interrupt me. And
I mean, and I've done this where I think I won a duel on stream against one of our community nights. I think literally because I was able to like drop an engraver or something, I was able to go Requiem and wombo combo off. I should have lost that. I heavily disagree with such little investment for such powerful combos. That is a problem.
I don't have that kind of space because my combos need like 2 cards,
right.
3 cards in some cases. Like I'm playing Clear World at the moment. And like if they
hot take, just ban every Link 1 at this point. Just ban every single one of them. Yes, I know Blue Eyes gets hit and that's unfortunate. Just ban every single Link 1. Like, I feel that you need to come hard, you need to come fast, and you need to knock some of this. Like, you need to nip some of it in the bud.
Me, that's kind of my turn done. Whereas like a modern meta deck like Malice, you ash them, they'll move on to the next thing, you stop that, they've got one more thing to make them go full combo, and older decks just can't do that, so they need their power level boosted, unfortunately. So I guess in Master Duel, if you get a bit sick of playing ranked, it is a ranked focus game at the end of the day, but like what else is there to do? Not a lot, really.
Community nights.
They do events every now and then, which are fun. There's been some fun ones, but a lot of the times it's still just ranked, but with like a ban list attached. Oh, only synchro monsters. Okay, let's just build the best synchro monster deck, synchro deck ever.
TG Hyperlight Brango Burr.
These decks ever. The funnest ones that they've probably made are like the more lower power ones, where it's like the normal rare festival, where you can only play like really low powered normal rare cards. That was fun, and obviously some of the ones that set Yu-Gi-Oh in like an older era, because it's so dramatically different to what you're experiencing on ranked. It's nice to have a different change of pace there. So I like things like that, but I just don't think it's enough to keep me interested
long term
outside of like just playing hyper competitively on ranked. So I feel like it does need more stuff. Like I can't believe we're 3 years into Master Duel and it's still kind of the same Master Duel it was when it first came out, because like they've made some quality of life improvements. There's been loads of little changes that are really awesome, but they've never added like a draft game where you go into the game.
That honestly feels like why do we not have a Master Duel draft? Like, no, he brings up a good point. That is such an easy W.
And you have to, I don't know, you have to put like 200 gems in or whatever to play, and you get 10 booster packs. You got to make a deck from these 10 booster packs and play with that and see how well you can do in a couple games, and then maybe if you win some booster packs or something.
Sure.
Something fun. I've recently started playing a game called Shadowverse Worlds Beyond, which is a card game. They have weekly tournaments, weekend tournaments. And I had a lot of fun with them because it felt really, really competitive to me the first time I did it. And I was trying, not the weekend tournaments. The first one I did was really competitive, but they do other tournaments in-game. And that felt really competitive because there was prizes to win in-game. And you have to pick one deck. You have to go against all these other people. and like there's like some that like brackets and everything. So I don't know. I would like to see something like that in Master Duel, something different. I know they did. Oh, I forgot the name of them. Where
I honestly feel that that actually alludes a little bit to the social aspect I was talking about earlier. Having that active competitive scene, having that like, you know, engaging bracket, you know, engaging brackets, right, in play, right, you know, knowing consistently when these events are happening, right? Because for me, I mean, or me locally, my LGSs have stopped carrying even JP card sleeves, right? They've just, some stops don't even play Yu-Gi-Oh anymore, and so I have to go like a city over either direction to be able to even remotely play Yu-Gi-Oh. And sometimes, yeah, my schedule conflicts, but it's just like, it almost feels like there's barriers for entry. And then, like I said in my reaction to Genesis, right, where it's like, I feel that the way Konami worded it with like, we're happy to work with our LGSs is a little disingenuous, because did they not kind of like, you know, proverbially stick up a finger to LGS stores for Time Wizard format, right? Like there was a whole interaction there, right? And to me, I'm like, and then they also fired back on you know, trying to on older formats, making sure that everything uses their current errata, right? That was a whole thing, right? And so it feels like players aren't being taken seriously. You have things like Pokemon Worlds 2025 with, you know, all the screens and stuff, and it's like, come on, Yu-Gi-Oh! You literally, your dual monsters literally had, obviously like holograms, not going to make sense, right? But it's like, even if you're not offering cash prizes, because of, I think it was Kishimoto himself said that like people shouldn't be making a living playing games, right? That was his view, and as far as I'm aware, they've respected that, right? But it's been a pain point, you know, traveling to events, and you know, even if you perform, you can't get reimbursement, especially when like going out to Oregon recently, and you know, just a night and a half was like $500 for my room, and it's just like, oh, bro. Like, you see that there's multiple pain points here, and it's almost like maybe if Konami, like, you know, top 100 players that are registered, right? You know, like they have the Kasi IDs and stuff, right? Or, you know, on Neuron, right? You know, top 100 players, they just fly out to a regional somewhere, right? But, like, I mean, that's expensive. That's cost. It's like, they could play into the Duel Monsters and even GX Pro Duel scenes so hard, and even maybe assign them like wrestler personalities and stuff. Like, we have the one, the only, the upstart himself, Patrick Hoban. I don't know what happened to Hoban. I know that something happened with him, but that's like, we used to refer to like upstart Goblin as like the three Hobans, right? Like, that was the meme, right? Circa what, 2012-ish, right? Bro, they could do so much, and it pisses me off consistently, right? Like, or even like TGS Anime, right? Let's say they wanted to fly a bunch of creators out, right? You know, and they'll introduce like, I don't know, Team Samurai X1 as, you know, we have, you know, hailing from the land of whatever like the field spell is, right? You know, using honor and pride to guide his hand. We have Team Samurai X1, insert pyrotechnics here, right? John Cena style, right? And then you have, you know, introducing TGS Anime as like, you know, the man who loves analysis, and they build into that, right? And they make him come across as like, you know, an analytical intellectual, right? And they lean into that, you know, almost like to a hyperbolic standpoint, right? And then you see TGS Anime come out, you know, and the dude shows up with, I don't know, like Bashin Misawa dot deck, right? You know, Oxygeddon, Hydrageddon, right? Water Dragon. Not that he used that specifically, but like, you see how they could interplay there, and it pisses me off that we don't have this every single day. Like, oh god, bro, like if I had time and if I actually had the space, like, can I just start 3D printing dual discs? Can I get them to like actually accommodate double sleeves cards? Do we as a YouTube community have to make this happen? Of like being hyper cringe and like doing actual like WWE status to make something like this happen? The fact that this doesn't exist, even though the source material literally alludes to it, literally makes me sad every single day. They have everything they need to succeed, and like, we just don't. Bro, we don't have. We could have actual, like, you know, we had what is it? Motorcycle card games. We could have actual like WWE card games. Come on now, helicopter jump necessary. I would do it, 100% do it.
They did the tournaments where streamers were hosting tournaments, Challenger Cup. But I want something in game for the casual man that can't bother to find things like that elsewhere. I want it in the game. I would also like a tournament system built into the game, so we can actually, when I do my streams, I can like, all right, we're gonna do a tournament. I'm actually gonna do a prizes. Who got into the tournament? Okay, we got a 32 player tournament here. Let's get everyone in. Let's see who wins. I thought that'd be really fun, but they still haven't added like an actual bracket system, which is crazy to me. And like collecting in a trading card game is not a thing in Master Duel. I remember my first ever stream of Master Duel when it first came out. At some point, I said I'm gonna try and collect all the cards in the game, possibly. There's no incentive for me to do that, really. Like, in Pokemon Pocket TCG, and I guess Shadowverse as well, you kind of have, like, sets, and it tells you how many of the cards in a set you have. Right. Especially on Shadowverse, it's kind of like a binder. And you can complete sets, you get a little, like, award, not a small award when you collect everything. Right. And that's like an incentive to just want to collect stuff. Not everybody wants...
Bro, you just want your good boy stamp. You want your serotonin rush of getting your good boy stamp for completing the set. That's so legit, though.
To do that, it sounds very expensive, but it would be nice for the people that want to do that
to get rewarded.
To do that.
Yeah.
But it just needs more things, different ways to play. I don't know. It feels like...
You mean, dare I say... Yu-Gi-Oh needs to lean into that modularity and argument on like things I've discussed previously, right? Like TGS Anime points the exact same, well, similar things, right? Out, right? Yeah, we need more things. Like you literally have the system, right? You look at a Yu-Gi-Oh card, right? Like you look at Wing Dragon of Ra, right? Like you look at Wing Dragon of Ra, right? And it's like, cool, you have all this stuff on screen. You have name and divine attribute, levels, divine beast effect. You have clarifications there. You have attack, defense, question mark each, right? And you have, obviously, its effect with its restrictions and stuff, right? Like, I don't know. Like, like you have all of this stuff. And I think it makes me really sad because remember Dungeon Dice Monsters, how it was just using things but slightly to the left, right? You mean like that? Just lean into existing mechanics and maybe twist it just slightly, like Genesis is doing with adding the point system? Weird. It's almost like you have so much information on a card that you can do so many things with this. It's wild. He's right.
It's really amazing game, which has some phenomenal music. There's absolutely amazing. The Sky Striker theme, the Despia theme, whatever the theme is that I keep humming it to when we're dueling. They're all amazing, and it looks great. It feels amazing to play. And when you get like a good duel, a good back and forth, it feels really fun.
It feels great.
I can understand why the player base like drops. It's the same thing. If I did what I assume most people do, is just build the most meta deck and just play that nonstop until you hit Master 1, then don't play, then wait for the next season, and then is the old best deck still the best deck? Carry on playing that. I feel like I get bored really quickly. That's why I have to challenge myself to playing like a different deck every month because it spices things up. And I would never complain about the pricing of Master Duel in terms of like, is it pay to win? Because I have literally played this game for 3 years and I have never put money into the game, apart from when I got invited to an official tournament and I had to build a specific deck and I needed gems for that.
But that's fair.
The only way gems is an issue in this game is if you're trying to build every new deck that comes out, or at least one of the new decks every single time they come out.
I mean, even for me as someone who hardly plays, as long as I play the game and as long as I like actually like get the gems and then I pull whatever the current pack is and then I just like, you know, I don't really care about these URs. Then I scrap my URs. Grats, I've already built Yu-Bell, right? Or grats, I've already got my Fiendsmith engravers and stuff, right? Like it is, if you're being very limited with what you're building, I feel it is incredibly reasonable. If you're expanding to multiple decks, that becomes an issue.
But even then, I could do that if I decrafted a bunch of my older cards. I could get away with it, no problem.
Yeah.
But I still think Master Duel is one of the most free-to-play friendly games ever. I'm sure, like for a new player, it probably is hard because you don't have the staples already. Like once you've crafted all your staple cards, you're kind of set up then for, you just need to buy the engine that comes out.
Right.
Yeah. Now, moving on from Master Duel and you go to Duel Links. I haven't played Duel Links since Master Duel came out, which is both a shame and I have no plans of going back because I hate the pricing of Duel Links because it is a proper gacha game where if you want to build a new deck, you have to just keep putting gems into the new pack. Fingers crossed you get the cards because you just can't make the cards you want, unfortunately, which I absolutely despise. I hated it when I was playing it like full time. But like you'd have to save an entire month, and I'm pretty sure what you could save an entire month was usually nowhere near enough to build a deck. So,
I mean, I tried Duel Links once or twice, and I don't know. I was just kind of there for like the anime-isms, but like I never really stuck with it.
you had to put money into that game, and I think a game that you have to put money in, even after like 3 months of grinding. I mean, you might get away with it, but even then, I don't think you could. So that's something about Duel Links I didn't like, but I loved Duel Links because I could play decks that never stood a chance in the Master Duel game, like Harpies, Cyber Dragons, like some weird decks like that. Gem Knights. Gem Knights has a moment in Master Duel, to be fair, but like that was really cool. Playing these like old decks and they get like boosted skills to help them. That was a lot of fun. That was one of my favorite parts. And like,
I think the skill system as well could also lead to a lot of modularity, right? Like, what is it? Fame King Jaden. Because I mean, I know these are used specifically for I forget what the format's called. Whatever the boxes are, the LCG, right? Effectively, right? Like your Duelist Kingdom box, your Battle City box, your Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Academy box, right? But like you have like skill cards that you can probably pull over from something else as well, right? Like what stops you from hosting your own like homebrew format of like, yeah, just using something like Dark Unity, Supreme King skill. You can use Super Polymerization to fusion summon monsters that can normally only be fusion summoned with Dark Fusion. Each of the following skills can only be used once per duel. Lose 2,000 life points. Then change the type of... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read that. A special monster your opponent controls to rock, which helps with Evil Hero Dark Gaia. Discard one card, then add one Dark Fusion from your deck to your hand. What stops you from doing this? Obviously, it's not sanctioned advanced play, right? But he's absolutely correct. And I think a lot of people, yeah, there were some issues with how some of the skills worked and some of the skills had to get nerfed, right? But like, what stops you from doing this? Just playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Commander, right? What stops you from using Dark Unity or any other skill card and like using it to augment the game? What stops you? Isn't Plane Chase a thing in Magic? I think it's something where like the field changes something. I don't remember how Plane Chase works specifically. I played it once. But you have cards that affect how it plays, right? And then I don't know, like have the deck of many things. What did you draw from the deck of many things during both players had their draw phase through end phase, and so you have like the next round itself, right? Where the first turn player goes first again. Okay, cool. Guess what? We're gonna draw from the deck of many things. Oh, it says summon limit. Okay, summon limit's effect now applies, or like skill drain, skill effects now applies for this entire round, right? Like, we have so many building blocks, and we're so used to just playing the advanced format, but there's so much you can do with the game, crossing skills into this, running something like a deck of many things, right? There's so many things you can do. And I think that there's so much untapped potential. That's why I have Kip Yugioh. For when eventually I have enough space and get enough sleep, let's be honest, right? To be able to start realizing some of these things and trying to start getting people on board with some of these things. And to honestly just kind of have fun with some of these things. Like, the product exists. Mishmash the product together. Grats. That's how... Grats. Just have fun with it. You don't have to play hyper meta sweat advanced format. You don't have to do that. You can just show up with Necron. Well, I mean, that was probably the wrong thing to end that off on. But, like, I hope my point's coming across.
Obviously, that is a more anime-centric sort of focus game. But I also didn't like ranking up my characters to get specific skills.
That's fair.
Grinding was very high. So I don't feel like I have the time to play that game anymore. But with the addition of Rush Duel, that is really cool. I would like to play a little bit more of Rush Duel. But... I feel like Duel Links is fine. I wish they would be a little bit more free-to-play friendly, just even to a degree. Just let us craft cards or something, but
that'd be ideal.
Okay, it's not too bad. There is a lot of fun to have in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I don't know, I'm sure I've sang its praises a little bit, but there's a lot to like about the way modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Works, and we're not going to go back to old Yu-Gi-Oh! That's never going to be a thing.
No.
They'll do formats for it, and that's great. There's an audience for that, and I would love to play in that as well.
But as an overarching design philosophy, they won't go back to it.
But Yu-Gi-Oh's not going to suddenly just like ban every single powerful card and bring the power level down.
No.
They're just going to try and hopefully bring the power levels all together.
Yeah.
So that There's more decks across the board, all competing at the same level, and that's just kind of what they. That's the only way they can make it really work. And maybe hit some floodgates in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Maybe ban every single barrier statue, because I do not like floodgates at all. And
yeah, the barrier statues definitely have a lot of contention behind them. Like, as much as I would disagree, because you have to waste a normal... Well, you don't have to waste a normal summon on me. I'm sure you can special summon them somehow, right? But that does inherently lock you out of the game, right? It's no different than something like an artifact scythe, I want to say, in certain aspects. Like, yeah, people don't like floodgates. You do need them to a certain degree, and I think the fact that the barrier statues are targeted, I think, is better. But once again, it's like the concept of floodgates is definitely still going to be one that's debated for years to come. Like, that's just not going to change. And yeah, in certain things like Link Ones, I think Link Ones should not be in the game. I think that they should. That is something I feel that they're low enough in number that they could probably just ban all of them. Things like inherent rank up mechanics as well, like Sky Striker Zeus. I mean, obviously, it comes down to how often do you see XE really nowadays, right? Even like Yu-Bell runs like 1, which is like, no, 2. I run Vergis in DDD. Caesar, right? I won him. But like, I think that if we were still in a very XE focused format, I think it'd be different. And that thus it relegates things like Zeus to kind of being a not necessarily a gimmick, but like a decent option that deals with Ixies, right? I think that there has to be some reasonable balancing point, right? Link Ones, especially with how prominent Links are and how strong they are, I think is absolutely a problem. If you have something like Contact Fusion, as long as you're not super polying everything on the board, like, you're fine. But even then, astute viewers would be like, what about one of the Chimera Tech dragons, right? That was like, I think it's a Mega Fleet Dragon, right? Where you can like just nom every single machine type on board, including your opponents, to make it. But that's machine type specifically. Once again, we get into hand traps should be targeted, right? Things like that should be targeted, right? That reinforces that argument, and vice versa. That argument reinforces this. Oh, but what about when you do something that changes everything on the field, like DNA surgery to machine, right? But now we're not running into one card combos anymore, are we? Something that was mentioned earlier on in the video, right? Because now we have to use multiple cards to get to this point, instead of having something like a Link 1 or something in your extra deck that just says can be fusion summoned. Like imagine if Yu-Bell Loving Defender Forever could super poly everything and just required name Yu-Bell on field, right? That would be oppressive, right? You can still get really good mileage with Yu-Bell Loving Defender Forever, but you still have to, shotgun the super poly, right? You still got to do that. You can also use Dark Fusion as well, right? Like, you see how this all feeds into each other and the arguments complement each other?
Maybe get rid of every single Omni negate generic monster. They don't need generic. Give archetypes boss monsters that are nearly exclusive. Well, they should just be exclusive for them, really.
So Dragoon kind of falls into a weird spot there, but like something like Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, right? You do have to play the Brick. You have to play the Dark Magician, right? Yeah, and if you want to play the Red Eyes, then yeah, to get the most mileage out of it, sure, that's fine. But you have to play the Brick.
Or at least let them have benefits being summoned in their own archetype.
Yeah, exactly. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon with Red Eyes.
Suck, and speaking from experience, you know what they should swap those 3 first decks to? They should swap it for a play set of, or like 3 play sets of decks from the structure decks. So you can have like a play set of the branded stuff, a play set of the new stuff, or something like that. So you can have basically you have one complete deck when you start, which I guess would be very confusing if you showed them the entire structure deck lineup. Maybe you just give them 3 choices then. So yeah, like Swordcraft, that's a Shadowverse. You give.
I would say as well, one of the adventure cards, I think it was Adventure Begins, one of them had 2 effects that you could Ash Blossom when they did one of them, but they still were able to use the other effect. I think something like that is a little degenerative in terms of game design, right? Because that is a single card that ends up having a lot of value, even if you hit it. So I don't know. I don't have good memories of Adventure personally. I wonder if I haven't seen it since, so I'm assuming the deck is hit in some capacity.
And the option of like, yeah, Sword Soul, Branded, and whatever else, like Hero or something. How do I actually feel about the Master Duel?
Dude, I want to play Hero just to be the guy that dirtles for 30 minutes doing plays because they technically advance your game state. But ultimately, like 30 minutes later, when we're both asking why we're still here, just like, I don't know, like I crash into him with something like Neos, right? Just Heroes is one of the most over-supported archetypes, but underperforming archetypes simultaneously. And like, you just sit there and it's like, this is the perfect deck to just dirtle and waste 30 minutes. Like, you just make plays. What do your plays do? I don't know. The plays exist though. That's why I want to build Heroes.
Meta at the moment, like a lot of people are bored of the meta because you go into a game, it's Malice. They went first. You don't have a hand trap. You watch them combo, make a really, really insane board.
I hate when I watch the synchro players synchro for like 20 minutes and then they'll stop and like, because you can tell they're reading their cards and stuff like that. And I'm just like, bro, like the chess timer needs to go down. Like, this is actually a little ridiculous when you have to sit there for 10 to 20 minutes watching the synchro player just like synchro climb. Like, and they, man, bro, please, not like this. Don't get me wrong, I love synchro as a mechanic, but you play against enough synchro players and your brain just starts to melt.
And then, what can you do? Or you go against Ryzeal, and if you're not playing something on its level, activate blown up, blown up, negated on resolution. What? It is really demoralizing at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that they haven't done any ban lists, I think they've waited longer for this ban list than they normally do.
Yeah, they're pretty quick.
Really bad, because at least the ban list like mixes things up and could like take the power level of these decks down.
But like, here's the purpose of having like a live service game like this is like when Destiny finds a bug that light swords are doing way more damage than they're supposed to. Grats, we're banning this for the raid encounter, right? We're banning this for the day one raid because reasons, right? Like, that's the point. Like, you're running a live service game, right? Treat it like a live service game, right? Hey, Malice is like, I don't know, it's throwing numbers out there, right? Let's say Malice is 60% usage, and it's an overwhelming part of that pie graph, and 99% of decks are running this specific card, right? Sure, but it's running it in triplicate, right? Maybe we'll throw that to 1, right? Like, just, it's when it feels like the game doesn't communicate and keeps people in the dark. I think that's what keeps people just in a bad space, right? Because it doesn't feel like they're being taken seriously, being in a degenerative meta, right? I haven't fought Malice personally. I don't know what the deck even does, if I'm being honest, right? Like, eventually I'll fight it with Yubel, and eventually I'm sure I'll probably like have to go take a walk after the match, right? But like, I don't know. It's definitely one of those things where like, I also criticize it because Konami, it's a live service. Like, you have the ability to deal with things as they crop up. You also will have the objective like metrics to showcase what isn't used and in what capacity they're being used, right?
It's just not happened at the moment. So it does feel really stale because it's just a 2-deck meta at the moment. I'm sure there's a couple tier 2 decks in the game that can kind of compete as well. But I need more variety, man. There's so little variety, and my older decks that I'm trying to play are just not standing any chance at all. I say that, but my Clear World deck, which is a Floodgate deck, yes.
Amazing.
Which also has a little bit of Kashtira and a little bit of Sarcophagus stuff thrown in there as well, is actually at Diamond 2 at the moment. So It's kind of climbing, but it does depend.
That's kind of wild.
I have to go first. I have to have a very specific hand. I have to get
good Clear World representation. That's wild.
Set up. But it's climbing a little bit, which does prove any deck can climb. But most of the time, it's just a battle of attrition. You have a low-powered deck. If you play enough over a long enough time, you will eventually win enough. Most of the time, but still, I'm kind of impressed with it. It's done quite well. There should be a solo mode. The current one is very shallow. Yeah. Solo mode in Master Duel. I like the idea of learning about these laws.
Yeah, exactly.
Of these archetypes, but the
Bro, use this as a way to like augment your own existing history. Like have like solo mode, Yu-GiOh, and it has like I don't know, like a Yu-Gi-Oh GX bit, right? Where it's like it's very like fan servicey and like you like literally the correct like proper and correct usage of this.
Gameplay of it is just the same. It doesn't really teach you how to play the archetypes. It just gives you like, oh, here's a single combo, and this is kind of how the deck works.
Right.
This is just like a little gist, and then you're just going to put you against the opponents. Just try and learn. And then they gives you rewards, which is really good. But yeah, it's I don't really know what they could add anything else to it, really. Like, how do you make a solo mode experience for a trading card game? It's tough.
It's doable.
I mean, like, things like Legacy of the Duelist, where you play through anime characters, but this isn't an anime game, so you can't really do that. So I don't know. Maybe they
I have to think on that one.
Proper AI into the game that like learns and plays against you, and you can give it decks. It would
That'd
be
fun.
nice. It would be nice if you could test decks more. Like there was an actual place you could go where you have all the cards in the game.
Yeah.
You can only use in this one place, and you could build like the new deck as it comes out. And like, wow, this is really fun, and I've learned how to play it. I'm gonna spend my gems now on getting that because I've tried it out and I like it.
No, he's absolutely correct. They won't do it though because it affects their bottom line, and then they can just play in solo mode. Like that is 100% unfortunately something that the bottom line will not allow them to do.
Whereas like I've played decks with cards that I've bought, and I'm like, I wish I'd have bought these cards. Now these are kind of terrible.
Yep, but you still bought them
like that,
and that's the bottom line.
There are alternative ways to do that in other places. So why don't they just do it in this game? And then like you can give your opponent one of your decks or something else you've made, and you can play against them, and you know, like things they can do. Choose your opponent's deck and play against the CPU. Absolutely. That is something I can't believe they haven't done. As long as Konami keeps making money with Master Duel, they do not want to spoil the players with different modes. But the problem with that, though, is their retention at the moment with, like, I think it is on Steam viewership is the lowest it's been. It's at, like, 12,000 concurrent viewers or something. But that is, obviously, there hasn't been a ban list, and the meta's kind of stale.
Right.
It's very repetitive at the moment, so I wonder. Oh, when did the dog come in? Can you see the dog? When did she come in? Did anybody notice?
It's so good.
Oh, face.
I love it. I mean, there's a lot of good information that came from this. I honestly love this. Thank you, TGS Anime, for another amazing video. And I think this is a lot of discussions we've had throughout many reaction videos, kind of condensed, distilled into one singular experience. And also, I know a lot of people end up liking the longer videos. So, I hope you liked the longer video. And ultimately come to your own educated conclusion, right? Like if you happen to know ways to get dual disc operational and off the ground, right? And especially in terms of like how like the deck slot, it'll cover it partially on top, especially if you can have something that you're able to like slide it up and down or make it more modular, right, to fit certain deck sizes, because 40 to 60 variants, there's only so much you can do with that slot, right? But I mean, that'd be something I'd be very much into and doing content with. It's been something that's been on my mind for a while, seeing if there's any PSDs available or something like that, or if I have to go buy, a Battle City dual disc, or go buy a 5Ds dual disc, GX era dual disc, and see if I have to take that apart and try to scale that up to certain things. But it's definitely one of those things that I've been toying with for a while, and I think that there's a lot of really cool potential. Like clearly there is desire, right? Like clearly there's a desire for the game, the series. Clearly people want to engage with it, but a lot of people just don't know how, right? And that becomes a problem. So, I mean, at the end of the day, come to your own educated conclusion on it. And that being said, if you are, I guess I'll throw it out there, if you're curious on a dingus trying to put something together in terms of actually learning Yu-Gi-Oh, let me know. I could reach out to a couple teacher friends and see what they have in terms of insight in regards to teaching complex topics, as well as doing so in a very direct and efficient manner. That I literally know teachers are some of my favorite people to talk to. It'd be something I would be willing to put together, but I would not be able to say it's not going to be like a 1 million view video or anything like that, and I will try my best. But let me know, as it's something that I might be able to try to put together. Thank you everyone for watching. I really do appreciate it. Let me know what your favorite archetype is in the description down below, and I will see you in the next one.